Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I am Peter. I'm joined by Tara. We talk about movies on this show, and in this episode, we are looking at 1917, the World War I film that just came out and is directed by Sam Mendes, and is unique in that it is shot under at least the illusion of being one take, one shot the entire time. Obviously, that's not entirely true. Obviously, there's little tricks to sort of put them together to make it feel that way, but it's still very impressive all the same. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you warning before we go into spoilers. I'll start off with just giving you a basic premise, which for this one is pretty straightforward. It's just two soldiers, World War One, are given the mission to travel across dangerous territory to get to another platoon that is going to attack this other trench, this other front line. But it's a trap. The Germans have planned this, and they have to be told to cancel the plan, cancel the action. And it's just their journey, and it's told under the guise of one shot the entire time, from the second they're asked to go and see a commanding officer to get the mission, all the way until whatever the story takes us, which I'm obviously not going to tell you right now because spoilers. So that's what it is. So I shall ask the question. Well, first of all, how excited were you, and ultimately, how do you feel about 1917?
I was excited from the first trailer. I'm a big fan of war films, and always excited to get a new one. And especially a World War I movie. We have so many like World War II films, and I don't want to say World War II is great, but like World War II is easier to film. It's easier to tell that story, I think. And we don't really have that many World War I films. And even though they've been kind of popular recently, even with Wonder Woman having a great scene from World War I in it. But yeah, so super excited to get a new war film. I'm really excited when I heard it was done in the style that it was. And yeah, this movie's definitely made for me. I love it. Really well done.
Yeah, I was mildly into it from early on just because it was Sam Mendes, because Sam Mendes is a pretty good director. But it was actually when I heard how it was going to be shot, and you've got Roger Deakins on cinematography, that I kind of like perked up and went, oh, hello. Because I'm not inherently a war movie person. Like, there's definitely examples that I like. There's Paths of Glory, there's Black Hawk Down. There's examples of war movies that I enjoy, but it's not a genre that I gravitate towards. And typically when I do, it's because the filmmaking is good. It's because the storytelling's that good that it rises above what the genre is. It's kind of the same way that I feel about crime movies. I don't necessarily like crime movies that much, but every so often there's like a really good one because it's really well made. And I'm a sucker for a oneer. I really am. Like whenever there's a oneer in a movie, whether it's Old Boy in the hallway or Shaun of the Dead when he goes to the store to get like a cornetto or like whatever it is, and then of course there's episodes of Mr. Robot that are all one take. There's episodes of other shows that do it, and Birdman being the big movie that did it kind of in the last 5 or 6 years.
I'd say Birdman was a bit strange because it has. The whole movie, that's the easiest one to compare it to because the whole movie's done in that style of one take. But I don't know in Birdman that it adds very much to the story other than, hey, what a cool artsy way to make this movie.
I can defend it a bit because I think the whole point of it in Birdman is to create that frantic backstage feeling. And as someone who, I mean, never professionally, but like at least in like, university and school and stuff like that, I was part of like stage crews and productions of like concerts and things like that. The hectic atmosphere of like sneaking around backstage and getting things, and like everyone trying to find each other because they're trying to set different things up. Oh, we need the lighting guy over here, we need this guy over here, we need that person over there. Like I think it's trying to recreate that frantic, because it's it's obviously typically by their nature movies that are stories that are shot in are told in what's meant to be one continuous shot are in real time, more or less, because how couldn't they be? There's no editing in the traditional sense,
Right.
So that's interesting.
Sure.
And I think that's why the concept of a World War I movie that's just a simple journey from point A to point B through dangerous territory told in real time like this, because as much as World War II is the easier war to tell stories about because there's a villain because there's someone who
Yeah.
unequivocally is the bad guy, and we can all hate quite easily because Hitler's awful and the Nazi
Yeah.
Party are
And
awful,
even
right?
all the Nazi uniforms, they look like, I don't know, they look evil.
They look evil, yes. I mean, hell, it's not. I don't think it's an accident that some of the Sith uniforms in like Star Wars, for example, are clearly modeled after what an SS like officer would be wearing. But anyway, so that's really intriguing to me because it's just this this point A to point B story. But I think the one thing that, and obviously World War One has a more convoluted back, because World War Two, not only is there a villain, but it's really simple. Right, there's a bad guy with a bad political party who's invading people, and either you were invaded or other countries had to step up because, hey, this is going to get even worse, we have to stop him. Right, you're stopping a bad guy. It's so simple. Yeah. It's almost tailor-made for movie making.
World War One was more of like a domino effect.
Yeah, like I can tell you that
Archduke was
yes
assassinated in
I can tell you
Sarajevo, and then like
I can tell you
the Germans are invading, and
I can tell you that Archduke Franz Ferdinand being assassinated is the final straw that started World War One. But I couldn't even begin to tell you the convoluted mess of politics between several European countries that actually set up for that to actually happen. Because I did it on school. I did the setup for World War One and World War One as a topic in school. But I remember it was weeks of like learning how it started because there was no simple solution to it. It was this convoluted mess of this web of nonsense and royalty that was like related to other royalty in other countries and all sorts of weird petty family.
Turkey was upset, and Austria-Hungary was like, we want Turkey also. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of
I mean, hell, Austria-Hungary is a country that doesn't exist anymore. There's countries that don't exist anymore in that war. Like, it's confusing.
Ottoman Empire. I don't know.
But what World War One does have that World War Two does not is a battlefield, because World War Two is largely, I'm sure there was a lot of little things as well, but it's a lot of air raids and things like that. It's a lot of, obviously there's D-Day and and actual on the ground stuff, but World War One has this continuous idea of there's literally a battleground with a stalemate that lasted 4 goddamn years, where there's this one side, which is the, starting off with really just the British, but ultimately being all the Allies, and then the French, obviously, of course. And then on the other side, it's the Germans, and they're just at each other constantly for 4 years. It's like such a simple... so on a physical sense, I actually think, from a physical point of view, it's almost easier to do World War One. At least the way I think about movies, and because to me, like jumping around all the political decisions and all that, and seeing people in the war room say, we have to do this plan of attack and we have to do this, is much less interesting to me than a story on the ground where it's the point of view of one person. I think
a lot of the interesting war films that we have, you mentioned like Paths of Glory, which is a World War One film, and that is interesting because of World War One as a setting where we just had this stalemate of basically just whoever had the most men, because we're tossing them into a meat grinder, and that just ethically and what it does to a country like France lost something like 40% of its male population or something crazy during World War One. Like, it's insane how many men they lost, and that's basically the war that they were fighting. They were just fighting like that Napoleonic view of whoever has more to throw at an enemy, like more people. I have more people, therefore I'm going to win in the end.
Yeah.
Last man standing.
And I think, to me, that's more interesting to make movies about, because you can just go down to the ground level and focus on the story of one person through this. And you can do that to an extent in World War II as well. Don't get me wrong. There's, that's what Saving Private Ryan is. I mean,
we have lots of great World War II movies.
Yeah, I mean, hell, Saving Private Ryan is even kind of the same kind of idea, where it's about getting to someone to deliver a message, kind of, right?
Yeah, but Saving Private Ryan it's a lot more Hollywood.
Oh no, it is.
The part that isn't very Hollywood is the beginning, and that is the part that we all remember.
Oh yeah, obviously there's tons of differences. I just mean in the idea that it's at its core, it's a journey to get from point A to point B. And the funny thing is that D-Day, like, that movie doesn't really even need that. When you think about what the story actually is, D-Day is almost like just like, oh, we want to do D-Day at the start, but it doesn't need to be there for the story. It doesn't, like, the story can start with them getting the mission.
The movie cannot live up to that first scene. which is like almost 40 minutes. I don't think that's true. I don't know. I don't remember how long it is, but I
Yeah.
remember it's like a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, hell, arguably it would have benefited the movie not to have it, because then it wouldn't be trying to live up to it. We wouldn't be sitting there going, "Hey, like this
but
is."
It did change war movies forever.
This is not as exciting as that first 25 minutes. Like, can we get back to that, please? Whereas this movie, like, so I don't know if I said I liked it yet, but I do. I like it a lot. Like, this movie captured me almost from the first second. It felt so confident in what it was doing. It starts off with something really simple. It's a simple image that tells you exactly what you need to know about the start of the story. It starts off, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll describe the opening scene here. It starts off, looking at just a tranquil field, and the camera pulls back, and we see our two main characters, Blake and Schofield. They're sort of like lying down, they're on like rest or whatever, and the Blake gets the order to he's got to go meet a superior, but he's got to grab someone else first. He needs a buddy, so he picks his friend, but he doesn't say, "Hey, do you want to come with me? I pick you," or anything like that. He just stands up. He's out of frame because we're not even really seeing their faces yet. They're kind of like almost in silhouette because of the way they're lying against the sun, and all you see is his hand come down into frame and wait for his friend to take it. That's the opening. That is the defining moment at the start of this film. It's just a hand waiting for the other person to like grab on, and thematically, that shot has just told me everything I need to know about the heart of this movie more than any line of dialogue ever could. It's so simple, but it's so effective. And the fact that it goes quiet, it takes time to let it breathe, and really makes a point of emphasizing it. And says, "No, here's what this movie's about. It's about him being there for him, and it's that simple."
And we know that because they're like right next to each other resting, they probably are comrades in some way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But we don't really know how close they are. But when he says like pick someone else to come with you, the other guy doesn't volunteer. He's definitely awake.
Yeah, he's still he's
it's a reluctant hand grab.
Yeah, his helmet's kind of like over his eyes. He's kind of protect his sleep.
Maybe he won't pick me. Maybe he won't pick me. Not that they know what they're getting into. Like,
yeah, but it's such a simple little thing. It's just one of those things where almost every movie in some capacity in its opening scenes should kind of just have something that says this is what this movie is, right? Even if it's subtle. And this movie achieves it so quickly and easily without feeling intrusive, to the point where it felt engaging, where it felt like, no, here, this is the story you're about to get. Welcome to the film. Come in and go for the ride. And so many movies start with like text crawls or like exposition explaining everything that's going on, or it's like no. It's this simple. We'll get to the details later. The details will come.
No, I mean there's enough in here. Like even if you don't know anything about World War I, you probably know about trenches, and it's sort of a film that teaches you everything that you need to know for these guys anyway. About the war.
Oh, I have no doubt that this is going to be used, because when I was doing history in school, I remember we'd watch movies because I want you to see what it looked like, and this is the best way of doing it, is because they've made movies that are quite accurate, at least visually, even if the the stories are made up. And I have no doubt this will be shown in schools, like, in years to come.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Like that, this will be.
It is. I mean, it is graphic, but it is and sickly, but it's. I think you can get a waiver from parents to watch this film in school.
Well, I mean, in the UK it's a 15, so that's like okay for the last like 3 years of school. So no waivers required. The R ratings
usually you have to get parents' permission.
Yeah, our ratings a bit more pesky. Yeah. So no, I loved it. I thought it was the imagery was beautiful. It told its story with not a lot of dialogue. There is dialogue, but like so much of it's them having to be quiet because they're sneaking around or they're scared or whatever, that there's not a whole lot of talking. But there's moments of beauty. There's moments even in the horror parts of it where it's still kind of beautiful. I won't go into the details. I'll just say there's an entire section of the movie which is lit by fire, and it's
fire and flares.
and it's basically in hell. It's like the apocalypse, but there's something oddly beautiful about the whole thing. It's very haunting at the
That's
very
why
least.
you get Deakins, right? Man, he's the best. I mean, I didn't even realize it was him until I saw the movie, and I went, "Oh, of course it is!" Like, the man knows how to shoot a film, and if you're going to do something that has that that camera trickery where you're telling the story with the style that you're shooting of one shot, like, yeah, get Deakins. He's the best, and I think the score does a lot for it too.
The score's...
Just as soon as a decision is made and we're going into a next scene, like, and then like the score kicks in and it tells you, okay, like, remember to breathe. There's like a pulsating ness to the score that really amplifies everything. And yeah, I'm really impressed by this film. Yeah,
the score's very good. The score does this thing, like you say, where it kind of kicks in. Because there's points where there's no score for a while, but then it'll kick in at key moments. And it's always meant to feel noticeable because it is kind of... It's like a mission statement moment where the characters made the choice to start moving, so the score will start moving with them. And it's really effective when it does that. You've got, obviously, the acting from the two leads is very strong. They're very sort of natural, very... You can tell they feel like old friends. Even if they never met each other before the war, they've become old friends during the war. So that works really well. There's some kind of like faces who pop up, as the superior officers here or there. The three that stick out are Colin Firth, and
Mark Strong,
and then eventually Benedict Cumberbatch. And it's kind of that old age tactic of, okay, we've got some no names essentially in the lead roles, but we're going to pepper out some of these like minor roles with these bigger stars. And
it does make the people that they're seeing, like, they have to get to their superior officers, like, feel like, oh yeah, not just are they supposed to be superior officers, but they are like well-respected actors. So it does kind of make it, I don't know, like, even when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, these actors have authority of the scene.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost a meta thing where in the real world we see them as being higher up in the food chain. So it kind of lends itself to the movie itself. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, I think it's smartly done.
Yeah, so I think we have to just say spoilers so we can start talking about all the stuff that's in there. So
okay.
So full spoilers for 1917. I will take this time though before we start the spoiler section to thank our Patreon producers of David Shaw, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Pelicious, and Tyler Hess. That means they're all Patreon, or they're all patrons, to say the word properly. They're all patrons at the $20 tier or up. But you don't have to be a $20 patron over there, do you, Tara?
Not at all. You can just check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/MilesPlusTV, and you can donate as low as $1 per month, and that'll get you bonus episodes of shows that we do here called the ACE, Atomic Cinema Experiment. That's our science fiction movie podcast. Or Screams After Midnight, you get bonus episodes of those as well. You also get other bonus bits of tangents that don't make it into the final cut. And go check it out. Lots of things.
Yeah, which reminds me, I've got a Tim bonus bit that I need to still publish on Patreon from last week.
Have you had one of those before?
I need to remember that. I've had one with Tim before, but this is, I think, the second one with Tim. But anyway, let's get into the spoilers then for 1917. So, it's a sign of a well-constructed movie where I can very vividly remember kind of the sequence of events without really trying too hard.
Yeah. Well, this movie is structured very, very well. Like, you go from scene to scene, and every time the whole movie is about traveling. So every time you get to a new location, it's like, okay, here's the new location and here's the new obstacle at the location. It's so I think it's kind of easy to remember for that reason. Yeah.
Like I said, I described the opening scene. Once they do get up and they start walking back, they're walking sort of back, and the camera's going back in front of them. They're walking towards the camera. Eventually they start to lower as they're talking, and it's them like talking about wanting good food or whatever. It's just normal friendly stuff. Them complaining that they want good food, and one of them's got a letter from back home, and he's all excited to hear from his wife or girlfriend. And it's normal stuff, just to sort of humanize them. But I really love the slow reveal of the trench because I actually thought to myself, this is weird. They come in from the side of the trench. That seems dangerous. But then very quickly you realize that this is, no. The trenches go back the way as well. It's like a sort of almost like a grid formation to these trenches, and then until you get to eventually the front. And we see them go through it.
It's one of those things where I'm just so concentrated on the characters that all of a sudden they're like in the trench.
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, when did things get dangerous?
And it's one of these things where doing a world that's this long, even when it's just them talking and walking through a scene with all these extras, is already really difficult. Don't get me started when we get later on and there's explosions going off and there's, extras running across in front of them and things like that. We'll get to all those big moments, but it obviously gets the orders from Colin Firth, and it's like, and I love that they specifically asked for Blake because they know his brother's in the other line.
Just say he's good with maps and he's got a brother It's
basically they're hedging their bets that he's got a personal motivation to get there. He's got that extra little push that it might take to actually pull this off. But they're told they're going over the line, and very quickly the mood changes from them joking to being terrified because and when they get outside the little dig in, they're like, Schofield's like, no, we should wait until dark. I know we said to go right now, but we should wait until dark because we've got more of a chance of getting across no man's land. He's like, no, he told us to go right now. He said they've pulled back. And they don't believe them. And who can blame them? Because for 3 years at this point, every time someone stuck their head up above the trench, they were getting shot at and killed. Yeah. That was World War One.
And we still see somebody in the trench like being carried away who's got a head wound. So it's
clearly there's still stuff going on. And obviously there's a bit of tension before they go out there, but I mean, one of the best sequences of the movie has to be them actually going up over the top and sneaking through no man's land, like hiding behind little mounds. They end up next to bodies that are like sticking out of the dirt and just all sorts. In fact, at one point Schofield, there's like a dead body next to him, and he gets startled and falls back, and his hand goes inside the guy's stomach.
After when they go over into no man's land, and they're like crawling on their bellies, and then they realize that they can get up and move around over the dead horses, and then he has to pull back the barbed wire, and it slips and cuts his hand in the barbed wire, and that same hand goes into a dead body when he gets startled.
God, I hope I hope that guy that died didn't have any diseases that passed on via blood. Because, geez,
because he first notices the dead body because a rat crawls out of it.
Not the healthiest looking place to be sticking your cut hand into.
No, sir. And all the water, like you see the crater with the waters, with the water that's filled it in, and it's all like, it just looks like old standing, like sewer water. Like it's just filled with dead bodies. And
you mentioned the dead horses. The second horse they passed, there's literally bits of the horse's skeleton, like the skull is like sticking, like the skin's deteriorated.
Like it's been there for a long time.
I thought that was really nasty. And they passed by
a tank, which is one of those crazy things about World War One, is that they still fought with horses and tanks, and
then planes eventually. Because we see like these early biplanes like in the sky, a couple of times as they're going across the no man's land, and there's a lot of sneaking. There's a lot of and they're warned before they go that some of the craters are bigger than they look, and if you fall in them, you're not getting back out. You can't climb your way out. They're too deep. So we get this dense, and it's there's no talking. It's them sneaking across. It's like a good 5-10 minute sequence. And it's thrilling the whole way, because keep in mind here, it's not cutting from shot to shot. The camera the entire time is constantly having things in the foreground to show you the destruction and how dangerous this place is, and so on and so forth.
Like you can make something out like, is that a head? is that him? Oh, that's a head. Yep, that's a dead body. Oh, it's like gray.
In fact, so me and Tara do the Ace, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, and we did the entire Terminator franchise. This scene here is what I want a future Terminator movie to feel like. Is them sneaking across like this, and there's like skulls in the ground and shit.
In one take,
yeah. T-800s in the background with the laser guns.
That'll be the next big thing. The next big movie trope is that it's all done in one take, and it'll be like the next big. What's a big movie thing right now?
Found footage was a thing for a while.
Like found footage.
Yes.
It would be the next style. Is that what you said?
That's what I said, yes.
Damn
Yes.
I
That
really
said,
need to
though,
pay attention to what you're saying.
here's the difference, though. Is found footage was so like quick to catch on because it's relatively speaking so easy to do. Like
That's true. It's cheap.
it's so cheap. This is really hard. Like this takes so much effort and skill. So even if this becomes a trend, bring it on. I'm all for it. I'll take tons of
I know.
winners.
Well, I mean, this is the right movie to do it for, though, right? Because we sort of talked about it, but like, I haven't seen like the TV shows you're talking about. I've only seen Birdman with the one take, and I've seen Creed that had the one take with the fight. And I have seen the scene in Children of Men that does the one take. And every time it puts you in there, it puts you in the fight, it puts you in the car, and it's exhilarating. And to do a war movie like that is so brilliant, like, because the whole thing is supposed to be exhilarating and it's meant to put you right there in it.
There's no
And
rest.
I don't think there's a better way to do that.
Yeah, there's just like, I mean, even though there is like more tranquil moments, like there really is technically no rest ever because they're in World War One. Do you know what a good do you know what a good movie to do something like this? It's like imagine Dread in one take because it's all in one building. They could do that in one take, you know.
That'd be cool.
That I mean that could be a fun experiment.
I also was kind of thinking it was very much like a video game, but maybe that's because God of War was also done in that style of one take recently.
I mean, yeah, it's like the same thing in a video game though because it's easy.
Well, yeah, but like
Wait, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
You have a character in front, and you're often like just seeing the back of them as they're wandering through an environment, and the environment suddenly changes.
Don't get me wrong. Making video games itself is not easy, but the choice to just never have the camera cut away from the back of the character's, body, I mean, it does spin around.
I've never seen that in a video game before.
I mean, lots of games have that perspective. All they did in God of War was choose to, if they're going to a cutscene, always have the camera come round from behind from where it was. It never just cuts to the next bit.
Yeah.
And it always spins back round to the end. There's definitely bits of that in a lot of video games, but I think God of War is maybe the first one to be like, no, we're never cutting the entire time. It's going to stay continuous. But it's a digital world, so it's that part of it at least is easy. Obviously the rest of the game to make is not easy. There's so much effort goes into making video games, but compared to real live action shooting, that part is easy because it's just it's digital. You can put the camera wherever you want. There's no
right. You can design the characters to keep going. You don't have to, keep your actors going for long takes.
Yeah, there's several scenes because after the No Man's Land bit, we have the bit where they arrive in the German trench and they see how different it is. It's constructed a little bit differently. They get inside and find that there's actually beds. There's like bunk beds like all over the place.
The younger guy's like, look how big this is. Like, what is this hanging? I think they have bread hanging from like above their. I don't know what that is. I think it's bread because I think they did that in Das Boot also, the German sub movie, because they also had like bread hanging from their beds.
Yeah, and the whole thing's it's just like this is how different it is over here. And the fact that they abandoned this because they've all just left willingly, but they've left all this food behind because they don't care. Like it shows just how different things are.
Right, it shows how confident the Germans are still. Like they're everything. It's a bit demoralizing, because you get there and everything is just better. Like the trenches are better built. They have better sleeping arrangements. They have tons of food that they can just leave. They leave ammunition behind. They just blow stuff up. Like they clearly have a lot of resources to burn that the Allied sides don't anymore. Or at least they have the illusion of it.
And they do leave traps, and that's kind of the big thing that happens here is that Schofield, well, it's not even. I mean, it's the rat, right? The rat sets off.
Schofield finds the tripwire.
Yeah, he finds the tripwire.
And then a rat like takes one of those big hanging bread things off and starts carrying it, and like immediately sets it off. You hear him going, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And then boom.
And we get this sequence here because Blake digs Schofield out of the rubble. And he is alive, but he can't see anything. Like all the dust and debris of the explosion are in his face and in his eyes, and he can't see anything. And they have to escape
and
because
the trench is coming down.
The trench is coming down. So Blake has to escort his comrade, who is blind right now, through, and it has to, like, at one point he's like, you have to jump this little gap. And he's like, you have to trust me and just jump and I'll catch you. So what's so beautiful about this is that through action, it shows how much trust they have with each other. Even if he hesitates, and he obviously does hesitate, because who wouldn't hesitate? I need to make a blind jump. But when they get out the other side and it's like, hey, you can turn back. You know, when I picked you for this mission, I didn't know what I was picking you for. I thought it would be, you know, go and like fetch food from somewhere or something like that. I didn't realize it was going to be this ridiculous, you know, travel across no man's land. And
Yeah.
And Schofield doesn't even say, no, I'm not going back. He just says, shoot the damn flare, because they've got a flare to shoot when they get off, you'll get to the other side. And it just witnessing this, and the fact that, I mean, Schofield just had his life completely saved and guided by his friend here. And so,
Yeah.
even though we get the sense there was a bond before, for us, the audience, we've just seen the real proof. We've just seen the real evidence of them going through hell together.
We get a good character moment here, because he says, you know, why on earth did you pick me? Like, he really like goes to attack, like not physically attack him, but, you know, like you should have picked somebody else. You didn't have to pick me. Schofield has already been in some battle where he gets a ribbon for. He gets some kind of medal, and Schofield does not want to do that again. He's trying to just skate by as much as possible until like we get. And Blake is clearly younger and has not seen battle and is eager to like do something. And, you know, also his brother is clearly a motivation. Like, I got to do this. But he's not like, he still has something to prove by being there.
I wouldn't describe him as eager to do battle necessarily, because I don't think he comes across that strong, but he does still kind of see the, because whenever he talks about the medal that Schofield had and Schofield that gave it up,
still has respect for it.
Yeah,
you know? He wants a medal. Like if he could bring something home and prove that he, you know, was a man out there or whatever. Then...
But I wouldn't describe him as someone who is like, you know, I need to go and prove myself kind of thing. He doesn't come across that way. I mean, the motivation here is still very much about his brother, but
yeah,
it's almost like the medal.
So too, but there is a clear contrast between the two of them. Like Schofield,
sure, absolutely, because Schofield, like, he's just done. He doesn't care about medals. He's kind of cynical about the whole affair. And Blake, like I was saying, he's not. I don't think he's not, because you watch a lot of war movies and you see all these soldiers who are like, before they've had this beat out of them, they're all gun ho and want to prove that they're badasses. You know, it's Bill Paxton and Aliens. You know, we're the ultimate badasses. As this goes show like how good we are. Like,
yeah, Blake's not that,
and he's not that at all.
He's more of a, like, when he says, well, you know, you saved my life and you showed extreme valor, so you're going to get a medal for that. He's like, oh, you think? Like, he's still like excited by the idea of being a good soldier, and doing his duty.
But he's not a hothead. I wouldn't, you know, he's definitely more level-headed than that, I think. Yeah. But yeah, you know, so we have this great moment where, okay, so this is the point where Blake gives him an out. You can go back, and he doesn't take it even after this. And yeah, I mean, partly it's maybe because he feels like he owes him after that, because Blake did just, you know, keep him alive, because he would be dead if it wasn't for Blake at this point. And it's this thing, and then after this we get this sort of tranquil moment where they're going through. It's like this orchard. They're going through it. Yeah, this cherry orchard. And I love the shooting style here. The camera kind of comes down the side, and it's going past all the cherry blossoms. And because there's no actual cherries yet, they can't see. You know, it's like, because Schofield doesn't know what it is exactly, and Blake's got other cherries. He's like, how do you know that? It's because, we've got an orchard back home. My mum plants them. And just the way the camera's like sort of dancing down the sort of the side of this little farm as they're walking through it is so different just from minutes ago when they were in a trench. You know, like, it's all of a sudden there's beauty in the world again.
He describes it as like when the cherry blossoms happen, it's like you go outside and even though it's spring, it looks like it was just snowing. And, you know, my brother and I, we go out there and we pick them all, and it takes the whole day. And it's just this nice scene that you can have in your head. And even though the cherry blossoms are all cut down, Blake's like, no, don't worry, they'll rot and they'll regrow more than ever now. Like, oh, that's kind of sweet.
Well, I mean, there's an obvious message there, just for the idea of like, okay, we're going to lose a lot of people in the war, but we're going to be stronger than ever afterwards. Like, you know, this is a pretty clear little
sentiment. But it's nice to have the metaphor, but also just that type of character in the scene where he's optimistic. No, it's
Sure.
okay. Like they think that they've chopped everything down, but everything will regrow, and like it's not as bad as it seems.
Yes. And of course, this really humanizes him. Obviously, so in the last between this scene of him talking about his brother and his family in the orchard and saving Schofield in the trench, at this point, the movie's done a really good job of making us really sympathetic and make us really care for Blake, which is important because he's about to die, and that is going to hurt. And they get to this little farmhouse and they sort of look through it, and they're looking for stuff, and it's like it's all, some supplies, but not a lot. They've cleared this place out. The big thing is there's a cow, which because at this point they've wasted all the water, getting like all the dust out of Schofield's eyes. Their canteens are empty, but there's like just a bucket of milk next to this one living cow. And even as someone who likes milk, the thought of just taking it right out of the cow like that and just drinking it made me go, ugh. All right. Now, admittedly, if I'm in World War I and I'm desperately thirsty, I'm sure I'll just go for it. But
plus, you haven't had to eat like real food in a long time, and milk would be a familiar taste, and something like that.
So
I don't drink, but
fills his canteen up. Well, I gave up milk too. I love milk, but I had to do it for health reasons. So, I've been milk free since September.
You're no longer a baby.
Thank you. So
that's what Arnold says. Milk is for babies.
Milk is for babies. So they once again see these planes, but there's a third one this time. So there's two British planes fighting a German plane.
We get a dogfight.
Yeah, but all from the ground. We don't cut up to the sky. It's all from their POV because again, it's the same shot.
Isn't Dunkirk.
Yeah, and thankfully, so.
Regretfully. No, I love this movie. I love both.
So, well, this is the thing. I don't like Dunkirk, and I mean, even though Dunkirk is technically this great, technical exercise, here's the thing that 1917 has that Dunkirk doesn't have. Apart from, it has characters. It's a novel concept. I know it's a novel concept. I'm just clear distinction between the two. Anyway, so.
I know that Nolan guy sure needs to go to like a film school or something.
Hey, Dunkirk's the only movie he's made I don't like. All right?
It's like the one I like the most.
Tenet looks fantastic. I'm all aboard the Tenet train. But anyway, so the German plane gets shot down and they're all happy about it. But you know where this is going, right? You know this plane's coming towards them as it's crashing. Yeah,
because you see it go down behind the hill.
Yeah.
But you don't hear a crash.
Yeah.
And then
comes right at them, and they're able to get away in time, and it's not a big deal. It crashes kind of into the barn kind of area.
Yeah.
But they save, and this is the thing. If we didn't already care about Blake and Schofield rescue this German pilot from the plane, and Blake's like, we need to help him, go get some water from the well and we can treat his wounds. And the camera follows Schofield to the well, and it follows him up to the well. He's getting stuff there, and then he hears something. We don't see anything. He looks over.
We just hear stop. No.
Yeah, and it's not until he looks over and then he starts running back, and then the camera turns and we see the pilot has stabbed Blake. And so it makes us hate the pilot, of course, because like he just killed Blake. But the idea that Blake wanted to help this man, even though he's on the opposite side, because ultimately most people in a war are there because they have to be, not because they are, like they're the people making decisions who care about, like, yes, we must annihilate the British or whatever. Like, he's just a good dude who's been conscripted or whatever.
Yeah, they've been drafted. I don't know if drafted is the right word, but they've gone to war to fight because they were told that they had to for their country.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, he could be.
Maybe the German side is the same.
He could be a garbage human being as well. I mean, it's entirely possible. Like, just like the people on the British side could be garbage human beings, right? I have no doubt tons of those people are absolute assholes, right? A lot of them are really good people who are heroes. A lot of them also help fight, but we're also complete dickheads about it. It's just the way it is. People are good or bad, and being in the war doesn't make them one or the other. It's just they're all there. So, but this leaves him on his own, and we get the dying scene where Blake is dying, and saying, you know, tell my mum this or whatever.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking. And I mean, he's been stabbed in the belly, but you know, we watch a lot of action movies. Sometimes they can recover. Like whatever,
Yeah.
just put pour a little gunpowder in, light it on fire, and then it worked
Yep.
for Rambo. Um, but you could see as he's going like that, his uniform soaking in blood a little bit more and more, and his face, because he's kind of got some chub on him, so like he's usually got these really bright rosy cheeks, but you can see his face just go like whiter and whiter and whiter
Yeah.
throughout the scene where he's dying, and it's slow, like it takes its time.
I'm wondering actually if that effect where he's going whiter is actually a digital effect, because I don't know how.
It has to be.
Yeah, I don't
like
know.
I watched it really close, and it's just like
I don't know how they could have achieved that during the take without it being something they did later in post. So I mean, it's really effective. It works really well. A lot of touches. He has to see his photo of his family, and Schofield gets out for him. The case that it's in is like drenched in blood, like, you know, and this was up at his chest, so you can tell the blood's really, you know, moving around. And
the map gets soaked in blood, and
one of the things that makes it really, you know, like afterwards, after he's dead, like Schofield takes off his rings and his dog tags, you know, to give to his brother, you know, and his family members. But actually, this is something that obviously is implied in a lot of movies after someone dies or whatever, but haven't he actually just sort of witnessed every beat of it? Like, no, he has to actually reach across and take this off the dead man's hand. You know, there's this kind of morbid, like, you understand why he's doing it, but it feels kind of like uncomfortable the entire time. It has a real edge to it.
Yeah.
It's really effective. And then, of course,
hard death to watch. And plus, you know, if we don't, the camera is always on Schofield. So, like, even when we don't really see the stabbing happen, we just see him like pulling out the knife, and you're like, and it's almost like, okay, you can get up, let's try walking. Nope, let go of me, you bastard. And it's almost like you don't. I don't know, like you don't get these kind of death scenes very often, where it's just done so realistically that it almost looks fake, but it's the most real that I've seen probably in film.
So the British soldiers show up. They run into, I guess, the squad, this platoon that's moving to another town, and they happen to be going through the town that's near where he's going, so they can get taken part of the way. This is where we meet Mark Strong, who you know, hears what's happened. A couple of the soldiers help him move you know, Blake's body, and it's all very morbid. And I think I really like this next little chunk where this actually sort of, like, you know, cuts down the journey a little bit, because we're in a truck for, you know, 5-10 minutes, and Schofield's just quiet. You know, Mark Strong says, like, make room for him, you know, he's on an important mission. And the others that are here who all know each other are just sort of talking. They're just bantering and talking about various things. They're cracking jokes. They're talking about whatever. And Schofield's just sitting there with a ghost face, you know, just not able to really emote. He's not engaging in anything. We hear, you know, variety of accents. The Sikh soldier, the Scottish soldier in there. And one of my favorite moments of the movie, partly because it's just so low key, is like, because obviously up until this point he's been the one who is along for the ride, and Blake was the one with the motivation.
He was reluctant.
Yeah, and the truck ends up getting stuck in a ditch. There's like a sort of muddy ditch, and they get out, and Blake immediately says, "Okay, we have to push it. We have to go now. I'm on an important thing." And he starts trying to push it himself. A couple sort of help in, and it's not really working. So. And he begs.
Yeah. Everybody out of the truck. Everybody out.
But you know, he begs. You know, after a couple of tries, which is 2 or 3 of them, he says, "No, this is important. I have to go. We have to go right now." They get the truck moving eventually, but it takes everyone to help in. And there's a great shot where everyone else is pushing against the truck, but Schofield in the middle is actually facing us. He's got his back to the truck. Yeah,
the strain in his face. Like, his face is like purple because he's pushing so hard.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful visual because he's the only one facing us. Everyone else is facing one direction, and he's facing us. He's like different from the rest of them. And it's interestingly not until he turns around and helps pushing it with everyone else that the truck actually moves. He had to be on the page with everyone else before it moved. There's a little bit of symbolism there, which is really nice. But I love that image of him struggling and begging to move the truck. It was like, okay, the motivation's there now. He's now
Yeah.
he's
Now
got
he
the
needs to
torch.
make this death mean something. You
Yeah.
know, he just lost his buddy,
So
who's just so young and like, yeah.
yeah, and it's when they get back on the truck, he actually opens up a little bit when they ask him like what he's doing and what he's there to do, and they wish him good luck when he leaves, and because they get to a bridge that's down, it's like, okay, we can't cross you, we have to take a detour.
Yeah, they get to Acosta or something, which is where they were. The regiment that he's trying to get to is just past the town of Acosta, and the truck is originally supposed to go through that town, but the bridge is down.
Mm-hmm. So he has to get out. Interesting bit from Mark Strong here that I quite liked is that he's like, okay, good luck. Hopefully you make it. But he gives him a little bit of advice. He says, if you get to the lieutenant, make sure there's witnesses when you give him that note. And he's like, yeah, but they're orders. And he's like, yeah, but some men really want the fight, so get witnesses. And I thought that was a really interesting little bit of advice. It was like, make sure other people see that this has to stop.
Yeah. Again, like it reminded me of, there's a couple of key scenes that really remind me of Paths of Glory.
Oh,
because
sure.
it's just the scene of, oh yeah, there are men, generals, who are looking down at the war and not accounting for the men. The men aren't people to them. They're just numbers. They're things that they can use to win. So like the war is different when you're in your ivory tower looking down.
Movies are different when you're in your ivory tower looking down as well. So I've heard.
Yeah. Must be lonely up there, huh?
So this is actually when he starts getting shot at. It's just right after the truck's leave that he there's a soldier in a building somewhere taking shots at him, and he has to duck and dive, and it leads to the one real cut in the movie with a bit of a time jump, because he gets knocked out unconscious when he gets to the German soldier. It's a very tense, well shot scene. And when he gets up there, he shoots him, but he also seems to either take a shot or get knocked back when he does so.
He gets shot in the head because his helmet gets blown off.
You're right, yeah. It happens so quick, and this is the benefit of you seeing it twice. But it happens so quick, I wasn't sure exactly how he get hit. But he was clearly fine when he woke up later, but I was like, okay, what exactly happened to him? But he gets knocked out. He wakes up and it's dark, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So there is at least one cut. There's one time jump in the movie. Narratively, it makes sense though, because he's knocked out. So I won't give that shit. The only complaint I have, the only cheat that I felt time wise, is actually right after he wakes up. Bizarrely, but the camera goes up past where the dead German soldier is, out the window, and looks at the town, and there's all this fire and it's dark, so it's this really pretty but apocalyptic looking thing. And I knew the camera was going to come down and he was going to come into frame, but it happened really quick. Like I was expecting it to be like a whole minute or something without him on frame, and as soon as I had that
it's
thought,
not like a big building. Like it was just one floor that he went up.
Yeah,
and
but
the entrance is right at the stairs.
Yeah, but he was lying down in pain, like he hadn't got up yet. Like I was expecting like a good minute of watching just the burning buildings before he would eventually walk into frame, and then it happened almost immediately. Maybe I'll feel differently when I watch it again, but like I felt like the timing just felt too quick. It's not a big deal, but like it's like one time in the whole
Sounds like
movie.
you need the movie.
Oh, here we go. Everything Tara loves is a 10, and if you dare question any one bit, you're giving it like a 4.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, you've got a track record with this shit.
I know. It didn't bother me.
But we get this fantastic game of cat and mouse where he's sneaking through this burning village, this burning town. The buildings are only half standing, there's walls just sort of on their own and things like that.
And it keeps getting lit by flares. Like the flares will come over it, which offers another kind of strange lighting where all of a sudden, like the parts that were dark or only lit by like a flame were now like super bright from the flares.
I think it's safe to see from purely a visual perspective, this is the most pretty section of the movie, is all this stuff in the town.
Yeah.
It is absolutely stunning, and he actually ends up hiding in a little like basement area at one point, and he finds a woman, a French woman with a baby, and it turns out that it's not her baby. She's just looking after it because she found a baby.
Yeah. What's the baby's name? Je ne sais pas.
Yeah.
Whose baby is it? Je ne sais pas.
And she helps him heal a little bit because the back of his head's obviously still hurt from the bullet.
Yeah.
So like, and they kind of bond a little bit. He leaves all of his supplies. He's like, hey, here's all the food I've got for you and the baby.
Yeah. Once he sees there's a baby and like he has a little bond with her, with the baby, and then he's like, here, just take everything. Take all the I have food. She's like, well, it's a baby. The baby can't eat this food. It's like he needs milk. Like, oh, just so happens I ran into a cow earlier.
Very convenient. But no, I like that. What's interesting is that here she asks if he has children, and it was at this point I noted that he's never actually talked about in the movie up until this point about his life.
There is one point where he was talking to Blake about going home and how he hated going home because the whole time he was home, he knew he was going to have to leave them. Yeah,
but he never talked about who was there. He just,
he said his family. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very vague. That could be his parents. That could be, brothers and sisters.
He seems so young, especially next to Blake. Like they both just look like children.
And I think that's actually, I'll bring this back up when we get to the ending because I think it's important there. But it really sort of stuck out to me that he doesn't answer the question. And he just kind of keeps going with what he's doing, but he goes to leave, and at this point he has nothing. Like he may not even have his gun at this. If he doesn't lose his gun yet, he's lost it soon because.
I think he loses it when he jumps.
Because he jumps in the water at one point to get away, but because at one point here he's stealthily sneaking around, and he has to actually sneak up and stab one of the German soldiers. During this, and that's all. Actually, see if you were going to compare this to a video game, this is where I'd compare it to a video game. Actually, is where he's he sort of sees one soldier in the distance, but he sneaks into the room and takes on this other. So because they're drinking, admittedly, he's got a little bit of advantage.
Yeah, he sees the German guy because he's throwing up, and so he sneaks into the building.
Yeah. That's
to try to get around him, and then there's another officer and he doesn't stab him; he chokes him.
Yeah, that's felt like a video game. This moment, and I don't mean that as a complaint. I just mean in the way that you feel like you're sneaking in, and you're sort of eyeing up the one guy in the distance. Yeah, going over there. Because I think it was because as he was strangling the one in the foreground and we see the other one off in the distance, I was like, don't turn around. And the amount of times in a video game I've been strangling someone and I'm like, don't turn around. Well, just let me kill this guy first.
And the other guy's drunk enough to where he's not really paying attention. I mean, he can hear him struggling, but he probably assumes that that guy's drunk too. Maybe he is. We don't really know because the second we see him, he's getting choked.
Yeah, but eventually he does, of course, see what's going on, and Schofield has to run, and
he just pushes him because the guy's drunk.
And I can't even imagine how difficult it was to time this, because by the time we get to the end of this scene where he jumps in the water, it's dawn. So they had to time this so that it was dark at the start of the scene, but it was going to be halfway through dawn by the time he got to the end of the scene.
Yeah, this movie is there's a lot of it where I'm just gonna be I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, because when he does get out of the water and he's so tired, he's so weak, he can barely move. He gets out of the water. It's not too long after that he hears singing, and he walks towards he stumbles towards the singing.
He has to get out of the water, which is full of dead bodies too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. To get out of the water, he has to climb over because all the dead bodies that are floating downriver have all kind of they've hit a log, so they're all kind of piled up in sort of in a little area. So he has to crawl over them to get to the.
And he gets to the shore and he just starts crying.
Yeah, it's weighing on him, right? But he hears this singing, and there's this British troop of soldiers listening to this song, and afterwards, some of them kind of notice him and go, hey, who are you? You're not one of us. Obviously you're on our side, but you're not one of our troop. And he's like, I'm looking for I can't remember the name of it, but this company,
Devos or something.
Yeah, something like that. Devon maybe. And he's like, we're them.
We're the Devos.
He's like, oh, where's Commander so and so? Is it? Oh, he's in the trenches. He's further down. We're the fourth wave. We're waiting back here before we go in.
They're the ones that dug the trenches, which is really cool to see because when you get the next shot when he's going into the trench and it's super fresh, the dirt's all white, there's no dead bodies, it's super clean.
All of this trench is super clean because this is a whole new front that they've built recently.
They just dug it the night before. That's what they were saying. That's why they're not they're not in the trench yet is because they're the last one to go, since they were the ones who dug the night before. Like, everything's super fresh, and it's just the contrast from what the first trench that we saw.
You did say next shot there. Technically, later in the same shot.
I know. The whole movie.
Technically. Technically. But yeah, so he's running through the trench because he's like almost at that finish line. He keeps saying, "Where's this commander?" And everyone says, "Oh, he's further up, he's further up." And eventually he gets to the point, because probably the money shot, that even though I do think all the stuff with the fire and the town is the most prettiest the movie is, the money shot of the movie... This
is the most white-knuckled scene.
Yeah, is where he's further down this frontline trench, but you can't go now because we're about to just send everyone out. And it's worth noting as well, is this trench doesn't have a hard front line. It has like a hill, so they can all run up it quickly. You know, it's not the wall, it's like an actual little mound they can run up. And when he's told you have to wait for the first wave to go first, he's like, no, the whole point of me being here, he doesn't say this out loud obviously, but you can see it in his eyes, no, I'm here to stop this from happening at all.
Just off the wave. Yeah,
so he makes this crazy choice to run across the top of the trench in no man's land, this new no man's land, as all this first wave are running out. And this shot's in the trailer. It's this beautiful moment where he's running across, basically perpendicular. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
that's the right word. Okay. I'm thinking, I was confusing parallel and perpendicular. Yeah, perpendicular to everyone who's running out of the trench. So he actually runs into a couple of them at one point. But it's this great shot where there's just all these extras, these hundreds of men running across the screen, and he's running through them because it's quicker than going through the trench. And then eventually he dives into the trench at the end. But it's just a beautiful moment. There's blast, there's like mortar fire going off behind him. You know.
Oh yeah,
it's great. We don't see a whole lot of this these days.
I sort of wish it wasn't in the trailer.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. They should have held us back, but they had to show something action-packed.
I couldn't help but notice in the trailer that scene only had him. Yeah, he's on his own. So I sort of expected Blake to die because of that.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. They should have really tried and kept that back, because I actually didn't remember the trailer that well, so I wasn't surprised that he died necessarily, but I definitely was surprised that it was that early. Like I thought that'd be at the end of Act 2, maybe one of them would die. Yeah, but it was more like halfway. Though?
Like, it seems early, but the stuff that happens after might have been the same amount of time.
Well, I think halfway is still early.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, because when I say early, I don't mean early in the movie. I mean early comparative to what I thought it was. How long it was going to take.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think
it's hard for me to judge the time though when I'm watching it. Like, it really goes by.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. It flies in real quick. He gets to this dig-in where this commanding officer is, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch, and
the ladies will be happy.
Yes, all the Cumberbitches. Yes, and he's like, I've got a message from whoever. You have to read it, and he actually doesn't want to. He's like, no, the attack's happening. Go away, Corporal.
They're already talking about sending the second wave.
Yeah, and he's like, no, you're going to read this. This is direct orders from Army Command. Blah blah blah, and like he's like, okay, give me it, and he doesn't want to. He doesn't want any orders here. He's like, no, this is the things are on. He's determined to see this through.
He says that this is where we've got the Germans. Like, if we don't attack now, then the war's over.
And Schofield
and
actually,
we're gonna lose.
And Schofield yells out, "No, it's a trap."
Yeah,
they've been planning this. Read the orders.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, he does. He takes it and he looks at it and he reluctantly says, "Okay, tell them to stand down." And we get this little moment afterwards where he's like, "I thought today was going to be a good day. I was hopeful that this was going to be the day we turn this around." And then he tells him to F off. Like, he just and it's almost this soul crushing moment, because it's like how hard it's been to get here to deliver these orders, and this guy's like, leave me alone. He has no respect for the trip he just made.
No, he just says like it was worthless because the next day they're going to send me another letter that says to attack, and we'll have missed our shot or whatever. Like, he's seen it all before.
Which is what,
and it is kind of like, oh, you're just like trying to. We know what this guy went through to get there, so
yeah. Well, it's World War. It's World War I in a nutshell. It's everything's meaningless because they just keep doing the same thing over and over. It's a stalemate. So we care. We're invested because we've followed this personal journey for this one person. But ultimately, his personal journey technically saved hundreds of people. But like,
1600 apparently, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, in a couple of days' time, it'll be a different story, and it'll just, you know, go and go. Which is why the actual climax of the movie isn't, you know, talking to him; it's talking to the brother. It's going to find the brother, and you know, and it's like he was in the first wave, so you know, maybe he didn't make it. Maybe he's already gone, and he's looking.
Yeah,
at
they tell him to go check in the casualty area, and it's. I don't know if you were doing this, but the whole time, like we all we know about his brother is that he looks like him, but a little bit older. He looks like Blake, but a little bit older. So every time you see a face in that area, I was like, does that look like him? Does that look like him? Is that Blake?
Hey, I wasn't even like totally convinced they weren't going to have the same actor, like sort of made up differently to look, you know, older.
I thought it was brilliant casting. I had no idea that they even looked so much alike, but they do actually.
Yeah, no, the casting's pretty solid, and he's like, "Oh, my brother's here." He's all excited for a minute, and he's like,
"It's Richard Madden from Game of Thrones."
Yeah, and he's it's quick,
and so is the other kid. Blake was also from Game of Thrones.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but they are part of two different families.
But you know, he just kind of pauses. There's like an awkward pause, and then he says, "It was quick," and he gives him the rings. I mean, would you tell him the truth? It was long and painful.
It took forever. There was so much blood. At one time, he became delirious, forgot where he was.
And just when I thought he was dead, and I was about to put him, you know, in the water, he started screaming again. He was kicking, and you know, there was like I'm adding stuff now. But
30 seconds later, after he died, help showed up. So.
Yeah, yeah. Don't mention that part. Don't mention that part. But you know. And he says you should go get some food, go get yourself seen to. It's been a dangerous trip. And he's like, but then he has to turn around and say, no, he was a good man. He saved my life. You know, all that sentiment.
Yeah.
And they shake each other's hands, and it's, you know, so
yeah, he shakes his hand and he says, "I'm glad you were with him," and it's kind of a nice thing to hear
because it means that okay, this whole thing might have been meaningless from the perspective of the war because he's not appreciated, and what he did, well, he did technically save people, and while that is important, doesn't necessarily mean how much in the grand scheme of the war. However, the fact that he got to get to the brother and let him know that his brother died, you know, with someone, he wasn't alone, like that means something. That actually gives him the ending that the story needs. And the final moment of the film is he just walks off, and I love the symmetry of this, the book ending of this, because he walks off away from where the trenches are, and all of a sudden, just like the start of the movie, there's no trenches in the visuals, and it's just a field. It looks quite pretty. It's like serene. And he sits down next to a tree, and for the first time in the movie, he pulls out his own photo of someone, and it looks like a wife and a daughter, or you know, something to that effect. And
it's like Princess Leia.
And he looks, and he sort of breathes a sigh of relief, and I think, you know, that's ultimately the arc of the movie. It's about him finding that he actually does want to hope to go home. That's like,
well, that's what it said. I mean, on the back of he flips it over and it says, "Come back home to us." Or something.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it even says that. Yeah, but I think throughout the film, he almost, it almost, I don't want to say given up, but he almost couldn't accept the idea of thinking about home because it made it too hard, because the possibility of not making it was too much. And this journey made him want to believe in the hope again that he could go back to his family. That's the central arc of the movie for me, is that, and that works, and that's why the movie ends here. You know, he shuts his eyes and the movie cuts to black, and that's it. That's the end of the story. And that's good. And that's why it works. It's a focused story that has a really good character arc, but more than that, it's the filmmaking. It's this constant, like, you know, ticking clock of just tension, because it's all one take, going through enemy territory, all these fantastic visuals. It's wonderful.
Really is. And I mean, more on like the scene with his brother Richard Madden, like I said, I was definitely looking at all the faces to see if I can spot who's his brother. And then the second you hear him talk, you're like, that's him. And it's not just because of like the filmmaking style. Like, of course, the person who's shouting overhead is going to be him. It's like the way he speaks, he sounds like he comes from the same region, which is from the same family. Like,
the
dialogue could have been said by like
which
a
is
younger Blake.
actually very impressive because Richard Madden is not English. Richard Madden is Scottish, and in fact, he's from very near me. So, so the fact that you heard his voice and it sounded like he was from the same place is quite good on his part.
Yeah, like immediately my ears just perked and said, "That's him. That's definitely his brother." Because families sound alike, and they sounded exactly alike.
I think the ending works really well. I think it does a good job of like every single scene in this movie is about Schofield's arc. Every single scene is about giving him the motivation and the story he needs and the journey he needs to kind of like go through the arc that he's having in the film. And that's why it's good storytelling. That's why it feels so tight. That's why nothing feels frivolous, nothing feels added on. And you know, it's kind of how we're kind of jokingly saying that Saving Private Ryan, even though it's the most impressive scene in the movie, doesn't actually need D-Day. D-Day, if anything, feels like almost I don't want to say egotistical, but or self-indulgent. That's a bit harsh, but this movie doesn't have anything like that. There's no point in this movie where it feels like this is here because we have to do this just because we want to, not because it doesn't actually add to the story, kind of thing.
No, everything is there for a reason, and nothing is superfluous. I think it's a beautifully made film. I love the style of just, the one shot is always going to make things more intense. But the style of, how do I explain this? Like, there's a lot of buts in this movie. We got to get from point A to point B. So we go from the trenches into no man's land, but he hurts himself. And then we get to the German trench, but there's a booby trap. Then we get to the farmhouse, but a plane shows up. We get to we get to a cost, but the bridge is out. We get into a cost, but there's a sniper. Like everything has a but. So, I like that style. It's constantly on the edge of your seat. Like there's always stakes. It's great.
They should put that on the Blu-ray cover. There's
lots of butts.
There's lots of butts in this movie. Maybe the porn parody version. Maybe they can put that on that cover.
Yeah, maybe that's where I heard it.
Yeah. So I'm very much impressed with this film. I think I went in hoping it would be kind of the spectacle I wanted it to be. And I think what's impressive about the one-shot thing is not just like the act of doing it, but the fact that it achieves all these great visual, almost painting moments, like in the middle of these one takes. Even something as simple within the farmhouse. There's a shot where it's following them through outside, and then it goes inside, and there's a moment where Schofield's in perfect silhouette at the window when you're looking outside, and then he walks out and he's perfectly lit. And I just, like, as someone who shot stuff and knows how much of a pain it is to actually get all the lighting right and making sure your camera settings are right so that when you do something like that everything's exactly as well lit or as not well lit as you want it to be as you go. It'd be so easy to like do that, but then have the second bit look a bit shit because, well, you lit it perfectly for that moment, so the bit after, but no, everything is methodically and meticulous in how it's presented. And that just makes it super impressive. And I mean, it should be when it's at that professional level, but I'm saying I appreciate how much difficult it is.
I think Deakins is just the best in his class. Like I think he sets the bar for what is capable of cinematography. And I don't know if he's ever done a movie where he's just kind of winged it. But because everything is so meticulous, and I've only recently heard of his name, and I think he's been in the business a long time. But I've not, like, when you watch a movie and it's him.
Here's a question: can you even name another cinematographer?
Nope.
There you go.
John Carpenter.
That's a director. Nice try though.
Didn't he try to do cinematography? No? Okay.
Not that I know of, but it's certainly not what he's known for. I can give you one or two. I can give you Dean Cundy. I can give you I don't know. I mean, even I don't know that many. It's not like that.
I notice when movies have like nice cinematography, but I don't really go because of the cinematographer, with the exception of Deakins. If I hear he's shooting a film, like, I'll make a note of it and be like, I should probably see that because it's probably going to be beautiful.
Nolan's cinematographer up until recently was Wally Pfister, and then Wally Pfister decided he wanted to be a director and made Transcendence, which was terrible, and he's just kind of disappeared since then. But up until Dark Knight Rises, I think, Wally Pfister was Nolan's DP, and his movies all look great, so, you know. But hey, that's 1917. Go see it, basically. This is the advice. Go see it in the theatre, and the biggest screen possible, because it benefits from it. And yeah, I think we've said everything we need to say it, but we do have to rate it though. So Tara, what are you rating 1917 out of 10?
It's a 10. It's a masterpiece. I mean, this is my type of film, and I think it. Whatever expectations I had and hopes that it would be good, it exceeded everything. And I think it's a beautiful character study. I think it's a beautiful film. I think it's a great war film, and it tells you so much about World War I without, like, even knowing much of the history. If you don't know, like, you don't need to. You just you get there and you're like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like. And I highly recommend watching They Shall Not Grow Old as a companion piece. It's a documentary, came out technically 2 years ago by Peter Jackson, and it's a really, really good watch. And I thought about it a lot when I was watching this movie.
What am I giving it?
Go with your heart, Peter.
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
That's not high enough.
See, this is the problem.
I mean, I know you had the one complaint, but that's really worth knocking it a whole point.
That's not how my ratings work, right? It's not like, here's the one thing, so a point gets off for this and a point gets taken off for that. It's more of a general overall feeling than it is anything else.
All right.
And I give
you don't want to put it up there with Terminator?
I give this a 9 out of 10. It's the sort of thing that a lot of my 10s happen in time after multiple viewings. Like, you know, I don't necessarily jump to 10 for some things right away. So it's not impossible that it will rise. But 9 out of 10 for me.
Well, when I went and saw it, I thought, I wonder if this is 10 worthy. So I saw it again this morning, and I said, yep, it's a 10.
Yeah, I'm just happy though, because I watched this and Jojo Rabbit this week, and my top 10 for 2019 was looking kind of rough, and I'm just happy that it's starting to fill out a little bit and doesn't look so weak, because that's nice.
Yeah. Me too. Now, I mean, obviously now I have a clear thing I'm rooting for the Oscars, which the nominations come out. Well, at the time of recording, they come out tomorrow morning, so hoping for good things.
So today, because this will go up tomorrow. So today, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So, yeah.
I'm pretty confident this is going to be nominated for a bunch of stuff. I wouldn't worry about that.
And now I have something to root for. I don't know if the actors have been nominated. Like, I don't know if they were nominated.
Probably
for the
not.
Globes.
But it'll be director, cinematography, best picture. You know, maybe costuming.
Willem Dafoe has to get it for best actor. So
if he's nominated. You're fond of my lobster, ain't you? Say it. You're fond of my lobster. Anyway, that has been 1914. Sorry, not 1914. That's the start of the war. 1917. So you can let us know what you think in the comments below if you've seen the movie. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Ding the bell on YouTube to get the notifications. You can support us by sharing us on social media, or of course you can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. You can also support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, as we mentioned earlier. So go and have a look at that. Otherwise, check out some of the other movie content we have. Me and Tara here, we have a science fiction movie podcast called The Atomic Cinema Experiment, The Ace, which we do every single week and talk about sci-fi movies. Me and Tim also have a horror movie podcast called Screams After Midnight, so those might be of interest. It is worth mentioning, now admittedly, 1917 was released publicly too late to be involved in this, but all of us did do our top 50s of the decade. And we there's a video series coming out right now. It's a 10-part series going through all 5 Male Fuzz TV hosts top 50s. So part 1's already up at the time of this going out. Part 2 should be soon.
And this movie's not on there.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But there had to be a cutoff. There had to be a time where we just had to get it done.
Okay. Let's just re-record the top 5.
Yeah, but then you'd have to kick out something else that you thought was good enough to be in your top 5.
I know. Let me just do a tie.
No.
Okay, add this
no
into
ties.
an honorable mention somehow.
Do you know what I'll do? I'll have
do a little scroll at the bottom.
I'll have the whole thing pause. I'll appear on camera and say, Tara would like everyone to know that 1917 is now an honorable mention.
I know, what a bummer. I could have seen it too, because I, live in the LA area, and I could have seen it, but I waited. I waited because I know I was going to review it with you, so I had to wait till it was like available for both of us to watch.
So that's my fault, is what you're saying. And
yes,
you say that even though you saw it again 2 days later. You tell me you wouldn't have waited to seen it again when it got its public release?
I didn't know it was going to be a 10. I had my suspicions. Okay, honestly, I definitely went into the movie going, this is going to be a 10, and it has to prove that it's not while watching it.
What would it have to take? It would have to be like they get to the it's perfect until they get to Cumberbatch, but instead of Cumberbatch, it's Tommy Wiseau.
It's like Pennywise or something.
No, Tommy Wiseau, and he's like, "Oh hi, you bring me orders from your captain."
Oh hi, Lance Corporal.
Oh, it's a trap! What a funny story, Schofield. I think we still send him.
Tommy Wiseau always end up in our reviews
because he's perfect. That's why. I say we still send them over. It's all this effort, to set up the attack. We should just send them.
Everybody betray me.
I am done with these orders. All right, that has been our 1917 discussion. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.